Right, in this video, we're going to look at some examples of naming covalent compounds. Now, when we're naming ionic compounds, it's all about the charges. The charges tell us how many of each ion is going to be present in the compound. Because there are no charges in covalent compounds, we have to be more explicit in the names. And so the only trick to naming covalent compounds is we just have to know these prefixes. And once you know those, naming covalent compounds is pretty straightforward. Okay, just a couple of other words about what we need to know in naming covalent compounds. The first one is, what order do I write the two elements? It turns out that matters. So typically, the more metallic of the two elements we write first. And I know they're both nonmetals. And by more metallic, I mean the element that is further to the left and or further down in the periodic table. So in this first example, I've got nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen is to the left of oxygen in the periodic table, so we would write it first. The other thing that we need to know is when we're naming these, the first element, we just write the name of the element. So it's just nitrogen in this case. The second element, just as in ionic compounds, we replace the ending of the name with IDE. So in this case, oxygen becomes oxide. The third thing that we need to know, for the first element, if there's only one of them, we don't write any prefix. It's understood that there's one. The second element, in this case the oxygen, we always write a prefix. And so in this case, mono is the prefix for 1. So nitrogen, it comes first. It does not have a prefix, so we know there's only one of them. And oxygen, the second element, it's monoxide. Mono means 1, so it's NO. All right, the second example also involves nitrogen and oxygen. In this case, it's dinitrogen, so that means there's 2 of them, so it's N2. Tetra is the prefix for 4. So it's O4. Okay, here we're given the formulas for some covalent compounds, and we want to come up with the names. So how would we know to write sulfur before fluorine in this case? Well, sulfur is both lower and to the left of fluorine in the periodic table, so it would be written first. Because there is only one sulfur and is the first element, I don't need to give it a prefix, so it would just be sulfur. The second element, I have to replace the ending of its name with IDE, so fluorine becomes fluoride. Hexa is the prefix for 6, so it's sulfur hexafluoride. Alright, in the second example, I have P2S5. I would write phosphorus first because it is to the left of sulfur in the periodic table. There are 2 of them, so now I do need a prefix for it. So it's diphosphorus. Again, I don't muck with the ending of the name of the first element. The second element, sulfur, because it's second, I have to replace the ending of its name with IDE, so sulfur becomes sulfide. And penta is the prefix for 5, so it's diphosphorus pentasulfide.